Have we talked about Kennedy on the show, like you with us?
Never.
I know the show's talked about Kennedy, like everybody has, but have we ever had the Kennedy talk with you?
I think it got passively mentioned on the episode that Woody wasn't here for.
I've
when, Harley and everyone was on.
Yeah. I remember watching.
I don't think we talked much though. I'd like to. I don't know too much about it.
Did Oliver Stone make the movie, the JFK movie? Is that who made it?
Yes, yeah.
I remember watching
Remember Your King. Yeah, that's the Oliver Stone movie.
I remember that. Anyone who's never seen JFK, you should watch it. It's a tremendous film, great cast, got our boy Kevin Spacey in there. And I remember at the end of it, there's something.
His boys, Kevin Spacey.
It's got your boy. Part of the gang, so to speak. Yeah. We go way back.
Yeah. Kyle is president of the Kevin Spacey Stan Club.
I like when our boys are like Kevin Spacey, and I don't know who's the fucking guy who didn't kill himself. Epstein.
Oh, Epstein.
Dude, he is not our boy. I don't know.
He was just a fun-loving playboy who liked to have a good time.
Yeah.
Is what I've heard. I mean, if that wasn't it, then surely all that information with Ghislaine's list, they would have looked into it, right?
Yeah, that's what the guard at the penitentiary told me. I don't know what else is going on.
That's what the guy who wasn't in prison there, the former cop with his pit bulls and his 22-inch arms, that's what he told you before the cameras went out.
With his magical camera racing capabilities.
At the end of JFK, though, there's a part where, I don't know, there's some text on the screen maybe, and they're like, they give a date in roughly 2020 when they're going to open these files and they'll be available for the public. And then that came, right? Or you're probably like, oh yeah, where's this file? They pushed it forward again. They pushed it forward again. They're like, nah, we changed our mind.
No shit.
Kick the can down the road. I remember my dad looked at me. My dad, I guess, didn't think he'd live to 2020 at the time. He was like, make sure that you look into that. Back then, I remember so well, 30 years ago. Make sure you look into that.
I want Wendigoon to get
even more. And so the JFK files are a whole thing. There's hundreds of pages of declassified CIA info that you mentioned. My last video about the vampire attacks, part of it actually came from the JFK files. So it's like this book of information, and then what they did is they took stuff like JFK. Stuff relating to MLK, Nazi groups in South America. And they released a few pages and then redacted the rest. And it was that'll be another 10, 20 years. All right, so they acknowledge it exists, but they're like, these 40 pages? No. What 24? When we're all dead, that's when you can look at it.
And then the people alive then will be like, nah. Let's push that. Let's kick that can a little further down the road.
And then Kyle tells his son, you look out for that whenever that comes around.
Well, I don't know if it's true, but it's right here. Zach wrote it. White House delays the release of secret JFK assassination records, citing COVID-19.
Damn,
that sounds like them.
That's dangerous.
That
you can't be reading that on your phone.
Hey, that's what killed JFK.
I've heard I've heard the JFK movie is good and entertaining, but I don't even know what their claim is for who did it in the JFK movie, CIA or something, I guess, based on the redacted thing. But we know for sure that that's not the full story in that movie.
Correct.
If the people out there were powerful enough to kill JFK, they're powerful enough to kill someone trying to tell the story of how JFK was killed, They wouldn't allow a movie like that to come out if it was really spilling state secret beans,
There's a lot of weird stuff with the Cubans and with Oswald. I've never thought the mob stuff was particularly compelling, but the Cuban stuff, the all the CIA stuff with Oswald, and then there's that one guy who's all the Ruby stuff is really weird.
Jack Ruby.
Yeah, he was in the mob or mob connected, right?
Yeah, he did. He was more of an enforcer for random stuff, mob connection, yes, but he wasn't in the mob. He wasn't a big member or anything.
Yeah, the whole thing's wild. And then that shot that he supposedly made, I don't know.
And then they killed his brother
after firing 3 shots out of a bolt action in 2 seconds. That guy had sleight of hand on up there.
What's hard to do, and if you've never tried to do it in real, if you've only played video games with scoped guns, shooting the gun and then chambering a new round and then putting it back up to your ear and getting that sight picture and then kind of getting settled into it, like that. It seems quick, but it's precious seconds that you need if you're trying to shoot a guy driving away from you in a fucking Lincoln or whatever.
Is the claim three? They say it was 3 bolt action shots.
Yes, 3 bolt action shots out of a 6.5 Carcano rifle. As he was driving away, fired in the time span of a little over 3 seconds, if I remember correctly. So the first shot was a miss. It skipped off the pavement and hit a guy who was walking down the street. The second shot is the magic bullet. That's the one that supposedly, hold up, let me think, I'm JFK. It hit him in the neck, went forward into his arm, down into his thigh, out of the front of his knee, into the seat in front of him, and hit the governor in the back, and was perfectly intact. And then the third, that's why when you watch the Zapruder film, he's holding his neck, because he had just been shot in the neck. So he's leaned over holding his neck, and then the third shot was the one through the head. So yeah, 3 shots, like super fast from a bookstore window, several hundred feet back. Just a lot of variables happening at once.
So do you not think that Lee Harvey, like, you think he was maybe framed, or where does he kind of fit into the mix?
So yes, yeah, there's the magic bullet. So yeah, into the back, then the neck, then the arm, then the leg. And then surprisingly was all in one piece. If in court they call it the magic bullet, yeah, they tend to not do that so much.
Yeah, bullets do weird stuff. I don't know about all that shit. And then it being pristine at the end is the real weird thing, because they get all warped up and beat up after hitting bones and stuff. And I don't know.
Looks like there were like 6 points of contact in that graphic. Like that would ball up and fuck a bullet up, right?
If it's
like
Full Metal Jacket, it stays pointy. Like
really?
Yeah, it's not going to mushroom back. It's going to stay, and that is Full Metal Jacket. It's going to stay together, but it's going to look worse than that. That would be a real pristine bullet if you found that like out on the sand at a firing range, downrange. If you go downrange at like Knob Creek in Kentucky, millions of rounds have been fired that way. And so if you just go down there, start like kicking dirt, you could just piles of the lead, the projectiles, just every kind you can imagine. Like, and you can see that not too many are pristine
unless it what?
I got him.
You guys were so still. I couldn't tell if all of you froze. I'm like, maybe it's me.
No,
you're good. You're good now. You're good.
Yeah,
now,
you said
Kyle.
Unless they wouldn't be, the bullets would not be pristine unless.
Unless you hit sand or something. It was like we would shoot bullets into that rubber stuff they use for landscaping. You can fill a trash can up with that and use that as a bullet stop. You're doing like ammo tests and stuff. You shoot right in, it'll catch the bullet. The bullet's in pretty pristine condition because it's going through soft rubber. But when you hit dirt and rocks and shit, the bullets get mangled. I don't know. Whenever I've hit animals and recovered them, they were mangled too. I don't know about all that. So they call it a magic bullet for a reason. They conspired to kill that guy.
Yeah. What was the Lee Harvey?
Did.
Like what?
I'm not positive about this one because I haven't dove into the research regarding him specifically. Whenever I was doing my MLK assassination video, I saw this and quickly followed it, and I was like, all right, whenever I remake a full bore JFK video, I will come back to this. But Lee Harvey Oswald was an employee at the bookstore, and according to official records, he was a communist sympathizer. Didn't like JFK. It was during the Cold War, so they just called him a commie because that was the idea. So he he supposedly just decided that he was going to kill the president whenever he heard that the president was going along that area. So I'm sorry, I'm going brain dead right now. Does something need to be said?
No. You're...
Sorry. I heard the mic come on, and I was like, oh, what's going on?
It's never happened before.
Yeah, we heard you typing
audio, and we heard him typing, and
that's why I froze up. I'm like, is this an emergency announcement?
I don't know.
Sorry about that. I thought it was just going to stop. No big deal.
You're good. You're good.
Nukes at last.
Yeah, sorry.
They're getting first they got Kyle, now they got Zach. Anyway,
all of us.
So to stay on the train of thought, supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald just hated the president and the United States, wanted to kill him. According to a report, this was the quick thing I saw, I haven't fully looked into. The initial police report is that because the police ran into the building, that whenever they ran into the building, Lee Harvey Oswald was downstairs working, according to again, this one report that I haven't validated, that he was just downstairs working there, sweeping the floor or whatever. And then one of the police officers was murdered. Supposedly the first guy who ran into Oswald got shot. And then Oswald escaped out of the bookstore and to an old movie theater, if I remember correctly. And then the police followed them there and arrested him. But that initial police report says that when they got in, Oswald was just there. He wasn't upstairs shooting another cop with a gun. And then that report disappeared from the official record later. So the theory is that Oswald was set up to be the fall guy or the patsy. And then later they just took that record out so that it would better fit the narrative that Oswald was the shooter. On top of that, whenever Oswald was being held by the police, he kept saying, like, I have no idea what's going on. And then whenever they explained like the shooting and everything, he said, oh, so I'm the patsy. I'm the fall guy. That's how this is going to work. And then he gets shot by Jack Ruby. So a lot of people are dubious over the Oswald connection. There's
you think Jack Ruby may have killed him to cover up anything he would have said?
Yeah. So that's the theory. So Jack Ruby was a mob enforcer. He had carried out like jobs for. That's why I said he wasn't specifically in the mob. He was more like a contractor. He supposedly just loved the president so much that he decided to shoot the guy as he was being transferred to interrogation out of the kindness of his own heart. So he gets gunned down. And then whenever they arrest him, he's like, oh, I just like the president. And it turns out he had cancer and he died 4 months later. It was 4 months or 4 years soon after. And if I remember correctly, his family, he had family debt and like hospital bills from his cancer that disappeared after he shot Oswald. So,
and
that was part of a lot of people throw that towards the mob theory. They're like, oh, maybe the mob hired him to do it to pay off his debt. It's like, yeah, the CIA, that's the mob you're looking for. They have a name and everything. Yeah.
And they can
so that's like the Oswald theory and like the Ruby theory and all that. Of course, it goes into more of like there being a second shooter, the whole grassy knoll thing and all that. So
what is the grassy knoll thing? I've always heard that like as a joke from Dale Gribble in King of the Hill, and I never looked like, what is that theory?
So Kennedy is in the back. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I just said pocket sand quietly.
Oh,
pocket sand.
my So Kennedy's in the Lincoln. He's going down the street, and Lee Harvey Oswald is in a bookstore behind him, like to his like back right. There is a grassy knoll, as it's been dubbed, which is a small hill underneath a tree by a fence to like his forward right, both on the right side of the vehicle, but the grassy knoll's in front of him. The only footage that we still have of the shooting is the Zapruder film. That is the film. So there's a picture of the grassy knoll, like up towards where the trees are back there, like the shadowy area. I don't think that wall's still there today, if I remember correctly, but like it's like a little field essentially. So anyway, the only footage that we have is of the Zapruder film. There was a cameraman standing on the same side of the vehicle of the camera shot we just saw, who was filming the whole thing. So he filmed, on the opposite side, he would have been over near the grassy knoll filming. So he's filming the whole thing, and he films from that angle as the shots ring out and as Kennedy gets killed. In the footage on the Zapruder film, you can see that there is someone else across the street who is also filming on a camera. So that should be the solution, right? Because if our cameraman, the Zapruder cameraman's back here, and the shooter's over to his right, then the person on the other side of the street should have an angle of that. And supposedly, well, not supposedly, this is a fact, they recovered that footage and brought it into court during the trial that like the movie JFK is about and all that. So, yeah, so see how Zapruder position is like next to the grassy knoll dude? Over there where the mouse is on the right side of the road is where this mystery cameraman was. So anyway, That footage makes its way into court. And it was not shown publicly. It was shown to a private jury. The jury said that the evidence in the footage was compelling. And the next day, whenever they moved to make it public record, they misplaced the tape. And to this day, it's never been recovered. They just the biggest trial ever. They're like, oh, we misfiled it. I guess it's just not here anymore. But according to
luck.
Yeah, and according to people,
I hope some CIA guy didn't lose his job over that. Oh my God, can you imagine?
He worked hard to file that paperwork, man. According to the people who did see it, they're at the grassy knoll, which is again the position in the diagram. Whenever Kennedy's head explodes and he actually gets shot, there is a large puff of smoke from the grassy knoll. And that also lines up because Kennedy was in the Lincoln leaned down like this. And whenever he got shot, supposedly from up here, his head jerked backwards and his whole body flew out the back. Which, yeah, your muscles can do weird stuff when you get shot. But it's much more likely if he was shot from the front that his head would shoot backwards like that, rather than getting shot in the back of the head and, having that reaction.
Yeah, that's
so the idea is that the shooter was in front of him at the grassy knoll, rather than behind him at the bookstore. There's also like the three bullets.
I'm in.
The 3 bullets is also widely contested. For example, supposedly the first shot's the one that skipped across the pavement and hit the guy watching the parade go by, right? Well, according to that guy's account, he heard a gunshot and stopped and then looked and then got struck in the leg. So supposedly, again, according to the theory, the grassy knoll guy fired first, and then whoever's in the book, because there was someone in the bookstore, whoever was in the bookstore, that shot is the one that hit him. Because there's no way this guy heard a gunshot and was like, I wonder what that could be. And then that gave enough time for the bullet to skip and hit him.
No, that's not how speed works.
That's not how speed works. Yeah.
It would have to be some wacky shit, but it's possible. That's the fun thing. Like that bullet would have been like ding dong ding, and he hears bang. The bullet's still going bing bang ding. Like
it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon jumping all around the square. Yeah. And perfectly intact.
Yeah, I never knew how much bullets bust until I started shooting a lot of racers, specifically like not just bang bang bang, but when you've got like a belted machine gun shooting hundreds of tracers at like that area. And you're hitting like trees and stumps and rocks and hard pieces of dirt and soft pieces of dirt and water. Well, let's start making sharp turns that you don't think are like physically possible. They just make a right turn and they're already going 3,000 feet per second and they just hang a left.
I've had that same experience. I shot a saw. People know this is a belt-fed machine gun. It was on the ground with a bipod and we were shooting it at a car. And after the bullets hit the car, in my mind, they vanish, turn to powder, stop,
disappear.
Yeah.
See, the CIA thinks that way too, actually.
Yeah. But in reality, because they're tracers, you can really see where they're going, and they're just zinging all over the place. Sometimes back at you. They do crazy things. And Kyle's right. Like that story they tell is improbable, but not impossible. So.
What's crazy is it's like, okay, you're expecting me to believe that some wonky shit happened the day a president died. I'm not going to buy that. Look, a president already died today, so I'm going to just assume everything else went like it normally does in our plane of existence and assume y'all had a guy hiding over there, one up there, probably a third we don't know about who just didn't have a clean shot. Like,
right.
I think they conspired to kill that guy, and there's just so many reasons. He was a fly in the pudding, or whatever they say in the ointment. Is it
fly in the ointment? Yep.
That's what Biden was talking about. Yeah.
I think I'm a fly in the ointment. Life tries to get rid of me, but I'm stuck like a fly in the ointment.
Yeah, there was a lot of reasons they would have wanted him dead. They also did suspicious stuff that day. Like every time the president goes somewhere, they put Secret Service everywhere. And the day of the Dallas drive, the Secret Service got together and they were like, hey, there's something like, I think the number was 1,200 windows he's going to be driving by. That's too many to cover. Let's just no security today.
I did not know about that.
He's too exposed. No one watch him.
It's just a wasted effort. Let's hope. Like,
Like
that
can make
he's
sense
in God's
if they were-
hands now.
yeah.
why don't they just say, let's not do
CIA's
it?
capable hands.
Let's put the fucking top up. Whose idea was the top down? I always think back to that scene in The Office when Michael is driving and Dwight's in the passenger seat of his convertible PT Cruiser, and Dwight thinks it's so cool to let the top down, but it's the middle of winter. And he's like, and he's already unbuckled them, and they're coming down, and there's no choice anymore. I just imagine that shitty governor of Texas wanted his picture taken with the president. He was like, no, come on, and he's like twisting how
Put the top down.
put the top down, and the wife is like, fuck, this guy's an asshole. He's like,
Is that the view from the grassy knoll?
oh.
This would have been where the shooter was. Yeah.
Wait, there could be clues on the fence.
All right. That's...
Look, he wrote his name right there.
Right there. His name's Roy Sanchez.
That's so
Roy
close.
Sanchez, you son of a gun.
The
Little
trees
Louis
know. I like that. The
Yeah.
trees know. That's pretty good. That goes
Yeah,
hard.
that's good.
The trees know that is good.
That's a lot closer than I thought it was. The way that looked, like I don't know where he was when he got shot in perspective to like where that camera was just sitting. But if you were trying to shoot a guy in that Suburban or whatever down there, that wouldn't be a challenge at all.
It
That'd
does.
be like
I thought that same
child's
thing,
play.
but also I don't know. You know how cameras work. I feel like I can't take it at face value.
I was just kind of looking at the sidewalk and the steps and kind of like doing
It's
a little.
I
not
feel
a
like
long
I could
shot
grab
at all.
the-
It's like 80,
Oh.
70, 80 feet maybe. If I remember
Set-
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. okay.
I have a
70,
lens
80
that would
feet.
make that look
He's
like a
super
hard
dead.
shot and an easy
He's
shot.
super dead at 70 or 80 feet.
Especially if you miss and you have a guy to cover your ass.
Yeah, you've got like what's funny is if that's true and they each fired like 3 shots, right? They were horrific. For like a couple seconds, it was like the Wild West, just bam, 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 bam. He's
Yeah.
missing all the shots. They're skipping over the car.
Yeah.
Too bad he couldn't like Mr. Magoo his way out of that. Like he reaches down to tie his shoes at the right time. Gets up and makes something. It's like the tires are popping behind him as he's like sprinting through the street. Yeah.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah, but that's not the world we live in.
Hey,
And then they killed Bobby. And then they killed Bobby. What was that? That guy's name was like Sirhan Sirhan, right? Something like
Bobby
that.
Kennedy?
Yeah, the guy who showed up and shot him in a kitchen that the CIA, the Secret Service, just let him into, and then he gets shot, and then they burn the evidence.
They
I
have
didn't
to. They
know
did it.
most of this.
Yeah, so
It's really weird. I think we might be living. I think that America may have died sometime around that period in history, and we're just like the leftovers.
We're like riding the corpse as long as it'll go.